You're not coming, my aunt smiled while handing my vacation tickets to her son. Enjoy Tokyo, I said while deactivating their cards. My name is Maya, and I've been a ghost in my own life for 6 years. The day I turned 16, my parents' car veered off a rain-slicked bridge. I remember standing at their funeral in a borrowed black dress, watching as my Aunt Jennifer placed her hand on my shoulder. You'll come live with us now, she had said, her voice thick with what I mistook for grief. We are family, after all. Family. The word tastes different to me now, bitter, like medicine that doesn't cure anything. I stare at my computer screen, watching the cursor blink against the white backdrop of yet another design project I'll never get credit for. It's 2:13 a.m., and the house is finally quiet. These late hours are the only time I truly exist. During the day, I'm invisible. The shadow that cleans the spills, answers the phone calls, and creates the award-winning designs that have made Carter & Sons Designs one of the most sought-after UX firms in the region. At night, I'm Maya again, hungrily devouring online UX design courses, building a portfolio no one will ever see under my own name. Maya. My cousin John's voice had boomed across the office earlier today. Where's the coffee? And did you finish touching up my presentation for the Nakamura account? His presentation, his account, his success. I had wordlessly placed the coffee on his desk and nodded. The presentation, which I had created from scratch after John had submitted a half-hearted, plagiarized concept, was already loaded onto his laptop, ready for him to take credit during the video call with our Japanese clients. Nakamura Technologies is our biggest client to date. They came to us, or rather, to John's innovative vision, as my aunt likes to brag, 6 months ago, looking for a complete digital overhaul of their user experience. What they don't know is that every wireframe, every prototype, every pixel-perfect design has come from my hands, not his. I take a sip of my now-cold tea and adjust my glasses. My eyes burn from staring at the screen for too long, but I'm almost finished with the final mock-ups for Nakamura's app. Mr. Nakamura himself had commented during the last call that the design showed unexpected insight and remarkable attention to cultural nuance. John had beamed, nodding as if he understood anything about Japanese aesthetic principles. My Aunt Jennifer swept into the room just as I was saving the files. Still up? Good. The cleaning service canceled for tomorrow. I need you to make sure the house is spotless before the Sharmas come for dinner. Not, thank you for working until 2 a.m. Not, I appreciate how you've helped grow our family business. Just another task, another expectation. It's been like this since the day I moved in. At first, I told myself it was temporary, that I was contributing to the household that had taken me in. But temporary became permanent, and contribution became exploitation. My bedroom is really a converted storage room next to the kitchen. My salary is room and board plus a small allowance that barely covers basic necessities. There was never any discussion of me being a formal employee, despite the fact that I now handle most of the design work and all of the back-end operations for the company. I open my email and see a notification that makes my heart skip. A private message from Takashi Nakamura, the CEO of Nakamura Technologies. Dear Ms. Carter, your back-end access credentials were used for the latest project submissions. While officially communicating with Mr. John Carter, I've noticed distinct design signatures and coding patterns that differ from previous submissions. After discreet investigation, our team has identified you as the actual creator behind the exceptional work we've been receiving. I would be honored if you would accept an all-expenses-paid trip to Tokyo to discuss a personal collaboration opportunity. I've attached the details, including round-trip business class tickets, a week's stay at the Park Hyatt Tokyo, and an itinerary featuring our headquarters and some cultural experiences. Please understand that we value authentic talent and ethical business relationships. This invitation is confidential and meant solely for you. Respectfully, Takashi Nakamura. I read the email 3 times, my hands trembling. Someone noticed.
Someone saw me.
For 6 years, I've been the shadow worker, cooking meals I don't get to eat at the family table, cleaning a house where I don't have a real room, building a business where my name doesn't appear anywhere. I've been patient, quiet, grateful. All the things a good orphan niece should be. But patience hasn't earned me respect. Quietness hasn't granted me recognition. Gratitude hasn't paid my worth. I download the ticket information and itinerary, my mind racing. This could be my escape, my one chance to break free from the invisible chains that have bound me to this house, to this family that has never truly made me part of it. My phone buzzes with a text from John. Need you to be in early tomorrow. Dad wants breakfast before the meeting, and I need you to fix some things in the Nakamura presentation. I look at the message, then back at the email. For the first time in years, I feel something other than resignation stirring in my chest. Something dangerous. Something like hope. I smile as I type a reply. Of course, I'll be there. Little does he know, Tokyo is calling my name. And this time, I intend to answer. But first, I need to make sure my ticket stays safely hidden. In this house, anything valuable has a way of disappearing, especially if it belongs to me. For the next week, I moved through the house like a ghost with a secret. I printed the ticket confirmation and itinerary at a local copy shop, hiding the papers and a hollowed-out design textbook on my small bookshelf. Each night, I would take them out, smoothing the creases with my fingertips, letting myself believe in the possibility of freedom. Tokyo. Cherry blossoms. Recognition. I started preparing quietly, researching Japanese customs, downloading language learning apps, even setting aside a small portion of my meager allowance each day for spending money. I altered one of my aunt's discarded dresses to fit me better, knowing I needed to look professional for my meeting with Mr. Nakamura. The night before, I planned to tell my aunt about the trip, not asking permission, but simply informing her I would be gone for a week. I stayed late at the office to finish a project. When I arrived home, something felt wrong. The air in the house was charged with excitement that didn't include me. Voices drifted from the living room. My Aunt Jennifer's high, animated tone, and Uncle Eric's deeper rumble. And John, his voice smug and preening. It's about time they recognized my talent, he was saying. A fully paid trip to Tokyo. Business class, 5-star hotel. They must be really impressed with my designs. My heart stopped. I forced myself to move, one foot in front of the other, until I reached the doorway of the living room. My aunt was standing next to John, who was holding my ticket. My invitation. My escape. Maya, my aunt said when she noticed me, her smile tight and practiced. There you are. Wonderful news. Nakamura Technologies has invited John to Tokyo for a special consultation. How did you? I started, but she cut me off with a wave of her bejeweled hand. I was cleaning your room earlier. It was in such a state, and found these hidden in a book. She gestured to the papers John was clutching. Why would you hide such an important business opportunity? And in your name? There must have been some mistake. The room swayed slightly. I gripped the doorframe. There's no mistake, I said, my voice surprisingly steady. Mr. Nakamura invited me. He recognized my work. He knows I'm the one designing everything. Uncle Eric's eyebrows shot up, but Aunt Jennifer laughed, a practiced tinkling sound that held no humor. Don't be ridiculous, Maya. Why would they invite you? You're just the help around here. You assist with some basic formatting, nothing more. I don't assist. I create. Everything. All of it. My voice rose despite my efforts to keep it level. Check the backend logs. Check the design files. My signature is in all of them. John rolled his eyes. Drama queen. Look, if there was a misunderstanding, it's fixed now. Aunt Jennifer called Nakamura's office and explained I'm the lead designer. They've already reissued the tickets in my name. I turned to my aunt, disbelief and rage making my vision blur at the edges. You impersonated me? You called pretending to be me? She smoothed her expensive silk blouse. I simply cleared up a misunderstanding. This is a family business, Carter and Sons. You're neither a Carter son nor an official employee. I'm literally a Carter, I whispered. Your sister's daughter. You know what I mean, she snapped, mask slipping for a moment before she composed herself. John is the face of our design department. He's been groomed for this role since childhood. He needs this opportunity more than you do. I looked at my cousin, who was already scrolling through his phone, probably planning which clubs to visit in Tokyo. In his 24 years, he had never completed a single project on his own. He had failed out of the design program at university that I had dreamed of attending. He spent his days taking long lunches with friends and coming back to the office drunk or high, leaving messes for me to clean up and projects for me to finish. He needs this more than you, Aunt Jennifer repeated, softer now, as if gentleness could disguise the theft. You have a roof over your head, food on your plate. What more could you want? John has a future to build, and I don't. The unspoken message hung in the air between us. I stared at the tickets in John's hands, my tickets, my opportunity, my recognition, now bearing his name. My escape route, erased and rewritten. The flight leaves tomorrow evening, Uncle Eric said, speaking for the first time. At least he had the decency to look uncomfortable. John needs to pack. Maya, there's a list of things that need to be done while they're away on the kitchen counter. They were going. Both of them. I've decided to accompany John, Aunt Jennifer said, answering my unasked question. To make sure everything goes smoothly with such an important client. Of course. They wouldn't even let him fail on his own. I nodded mutely and turned away, my mind oddly calm despite the storm raging inside. As I walked toward the kitchen, I heard John's voice again. Make sure my blue suit is pressed, Maya. And I need my good shoes polished. I paused at the kitchen doorway, my back to them, and a cold clarity washed over me. 6 years of silence. 6 years of invisibility. 6 years of building their empire while living in their shadows. Of course, I said softly. I'll take care of everything. And for the first time, I meant it in a way they couldn't begin to understand. I didn't sleep that night. Instead, I sat cross-legged on my narrow bed, laptop balanced on my knees, the blue light illuminating my face as I worked. Outside, rain tapped against my small window like impatient fingers, urging me on. Every keystroke felt like a small act of rebellion. The morning passed in a blur of performative servitude. I pressed John's blue suit with meticulous care, polished his shoes until they gleamed, and even helped Aunt Jennifer organize her toiletries, all while my mind cataloged every system, every password, every digital backdoor I had built into Carter and Sons designs over the years. You'll manage things while we're gone, won't you? Uncle Eric asked as he loaded their luggage into the car. It wasn't really a question. Of course, I replied, smiling blandly. Everything will be taken care of. Aunt Jennifer barely glanced at me as she slid into the passenger seat, too busy checking her reflection in her compact mirror. John was worse. He walked right past me as if I were a piece of furniture, his headphones already on, probably rehearsing what lies he would tell Mr. Nakamura about his designs. I stood in the driveway, waving as they drove away, the perfect picture of the dutiful niece. The moment their car turned the corner, my smile fell away like a mask I no longer needed to wear. Back inside, I moved to the living room window and waited. 20 minutes later, I watched the airport shuttle service I had called for them pull up outside. They'd be at the airport in an hour. Their flight would board in 3. They would be over the Pacific in 5. I made myself a cup of tea, using Aunt Jennifer's special imported leaves that I was never allowed to touch, and sat down at the dining room table with my laptop. The house was silent, a rare and precious thing. I ran my fingers along the expensive wood of the table, feeling its smooth surface. This table. How many dinners had I served here, only to eat my own portion standing in the kitchen afterward? How many times had I polished this wood, while John propped his feet on it, leaving scuff marks for me to clean? I opened my laptop and navigated to the company's backend system. 6 years of being invisible had its advantages. No one had ever bothered to check what administrative permissions I had granted myself. I had built this system from scratch, knew every line of code intimately. It was mine in a way nothing else in this house was. I took a slow sip of tea, savoring the moment. Then I began. First, the corporate credit cards. Aunt Jennifer's platinum card, deactivated. John's gold card, suspended. The backup cards they carried, flagged for suspicious activity. The automated text alerts I had set up pinged my phone immediately. Service suspended due to security concerns. Please contact your financial institution. Next, the hotel reservations. A few keystrokes, and their booking at the Park Hyatt Tokyo vanished from the system. Their airport pickup? Cancelled with a note about non-payment. I checked my watch. Their flight would be boarding soon. They were probably sitting in the priority lounge, sipping champagne, oblivious to what awaited them on the other side of the world. My phone buzzed. A text from John. "Did you mess with the company cards? They're not working." I set my phone down without answering and continued working. I changed the passwords to the company email accounts and cloud storage. I transferred copies of all client files to my personal encrypted drive. Not to steal them. I wasn't like Aunt Jennifer and John, but to preserve evidence. Another text from John. "MAYA. Call me now. The cards are all declined." I imagined him standing at the airport lounge bar, his face reddening as the bartender handed back his card. I imagined Aunt Jennifer's embarrassment as her platinum card was rejected at the priority check-in counter. For the first time in years, I laughed out loud in the empty house, the sound strange and almost frightening in its freedom. My phone rang. Aunt Jennifer. I let it go to voicemail. It rang again. Uncle Eric this time. I turned it off and set it aside. I opened the Nakamura Technologies account files and began drafting an email to Mr. Takashi Nakamura himself. I attached design files showing my original work, complete with timestamps and metadata proving my authorship. I included screenshots of internal company communications where John had taken credit for my designs. I added documentation of the unpaid hours I had worked, calculations of the wages I was owed. Then I paused, finger hovering over the send button. Was I really going to do this? Burn the only bridges I had? Even if they were bridges to nowhere? My laptop pinged with a notification. An email from the airline. Their flight had just departed. In that moment, I felt something I hadn't felt since my parents died. A sense of control over my own life. My aunt and cousin were now 35,000 feet in the air, heading to a country where they knew no one, couldn't speak the language, and would soon discover they had no money, no hotel, and no credibility with the client they were meeting. They were, in short, as helpless as I had been at 16. But this wasn't just about Tokyo anymore, or even about a stolen opportunity. This was about dismantling the empire they had built on my stolen labor. This was about stepping out of the shadows and reclaiming my name, my future. I pressed send on the email to Mr. Nakamura, then settled back with my tea, breathing in the silence of the empty house. For once, it didn't feel lonely. It felt like the beginning of something new. The first day of freedom is the sweetest. I slept in the master bedroom, spreading out on Aunt Jennifer's memory foam mattress like a starfish. I used her expensive face creams. I ate cereal on the cream-colored sofa. Small rebellions, but they felt monumental after years of confinement. By noon, my phone had accumulated 37 missed calls and 62 text messages. I scrolled through them while lounging in Uncle Eric's leather recliner, a forbidden fruit I'd polished weekly but never sat in. Aunt Jennifer, 3:47 a.m. The hotel has no record of our reservation. Fix this immediately. John, 4:15 a.m. WTF Maya. All cards declined. Nakamura's driver never showed. We're stranded. Uncle Eric, 5:02 a.m. Maya, please respond. Jennifer is hysterical. What's happening? Their panic escalated with each message. By the most recent ones, Aunt Jennifer was threatening to call the police, fire me, evict me, as if I hadn't already liberated myself from all three possibilities. I set down my phone and turned to my laptop. Phase 2 was waiting. For 6 years, I'd been Carter and Sons' digital architect, building their systems while they slept. What they never realized was that I'd also built myself a vault, a secure cloud storage filled with every questionable business practice they'd employed. I opened the folder labeled Insurance Policy. Inside, emails where Aunt Jennifer boasted about underpaying staff, complete with calculated percentages of what she saved by hiring desperate immigrants and paying them under the table. Tax reports with 2 versions, the real numbers and the adjusted ones she submitted. Design portfolios stolen from freelancers, rebranded with John's name. Recordings of client calls where she promised capabilities the company didn't have, with internal emails plotting how to upsell and underdeliver. A digital paper trail of every ethical line they'd crossed. I'd collected them not as ammunition, but as protection. If they ever discovered how much I knew about their operations and tried to silence me, I'd have evidence. Now, they would serve a different purpose. My phone buzzed again. This time, it was Mr. Nakamura. Ms. Carter, I received your email. Most concerning. I'm currently meeting with your cousin and aunt who seem unprepared. Would you be available for a video call in 1 hour? I smiled and replied affirmatively. Then I showered, put on the nicest clothes I owned, still shabby compared to Aunt Jennifer's closet full of designer wear, and prepared for the call. When Mr. Nakamura's face appeared on my screen, he looked grave. Behind him, I caught a glimpse of a conference room where Aunt Jennifer and John sat, their expressions thunderous. Ms. Carter, thank you for joining us. I've reviewed the materials you sent. Most troubling. He adjusted his glasses. Your aunt and cousin claim you've sabotaged their trip out of jealousy. They say you are merely an assistant who has overstepped. I expected to feel nervous, but instead, I felt calm. The truth was my shield now. Mr. Nakamura, I've worked as the lead designer on your projects from the beginning. Every mock-up, every wireframe, every user flow was created by me. The metadata in the files confirms this. Yes, I verified that, he said, his voice cool. What's more concerning is the evidence of systematic fraud and exploitation. Aunt Jennifer's face appeared in frame, her makeup smeared, her composure shattered. She's lying. Maya, stop this nonsense immediately. Mr. Nakamura raised a hand. Ms. Jennifer Carter, please. The evidence is quite clear. What's more, my team has independently confirmed that your company has been engaging in similar practices with other clients. My heart raced. I hadn't expected this. What do you mean? I asked. After receiving your email, we contacted several other design firms mentioned in your aunt's emails. It seems Carter & Sons has been underbidding competitors, then stealing their work to fulfill contracts. Several companies are now considering legal action. The room behind him erupted as Aunt Jennifer began shouting and John slumped forward, head in his hands. Mr. Nakamura continued calmly. Nakamura Technologies cannot maintain a business relationship with Carter & Sons under these circumstances. However, his expression softened as he addressed me directly. Our original offer to you, Ms. Maya Carter, stands. Your work has been exceptional, and your ethics in bringing this to light are commendable. I felt dizzy with vindication. Thank you, Mr. Nakamura. I will email you a new itinerary. We would still be honored to host you in Tokyo. After the call ended, I sat in stunned silence for several minutes. Then my phone exploded with notifications. News travels fast in business circles. The firms Aunt Jennifer had cheated were contacting their clients with evidence of the fraud. Those clients were withdrawing projects. The company's biggest customer had publicly terminated their contract, citing ethical concerns. The business website was flooded with comments demanding explanations. I hadn't planned for it to unravel so quickly. I had only sent evidence to Mr. Nakamura, not realizing he would investigate further and contact others. The domino effect was beyond anything I could have orchestrated. My laptop pinged with a new email. It was from a law firm representing one of the freelance designers whose work Aunt Jennifer had stolen. They'd found my contact information in the company records and wanted to talk. They were building a case. Another email arrived from the accountant who had warned Aunt Jennifer about her tax adjustments before being fired. He too was speaking with authorities. It was as if I'd pulled one thread, and the entire tapestry of lies was unraveling at once. I closed my laptop, suddenly overwhelmed. This wasn't just revenge anymore, it was justice. Not just for me, but for everyone they'd exploited. My phone rang again. Uncle Eric. Maya. His voice was hoarse. What have you done? I didn't do this, I said quietly. You did. All of you. I just stopped hiding the evidence. For the first time in 6 years, I hung up on him mid-sentence. Outside, the sun was setting, casting long shadows across the lawn. From the window, I could see the cherry tree in the backyard beginning to blossom, small pink buds promising new life. Tokyo was waiting. But first, there was more work to do. The empire fell faster than I could have imagined. Within 48 hours of my email to Mr. Nakamura, Carter & Sons Designs was in free fall. The company bank accounts were frozen pending investigation. The office landlord, hearing rumors of impending bankruptcy, changed the entry codes. 3 pending lawsuits from competitors and former freelancers were filed. The tax authorities had opened an inquiry. Uncle Eric called me 17 times. I finally answered the 18th. "Maya, please," his voice cracked. "We're stuck in Tokyo. The bank won't authorize any transfers. We can barely afford to eat. Jennifer is talking about pawning her jewelry to buy return tickets." "How terrible for you," I said, surprised by the coldness in my voice. "To be in a foreign country with no money and no support system." "I know you're angry." "I'm not angry, Uncle. I was angry when I was 16 and you put me in a storage room. I was angry when I worked 80-hour weeks without pay. I was angry when you watched John take credit for my work year after year." I took a deep breath. "Now, I'm just done. We took you in when you had nowhere to go," he said, his voice hardening. "We gave you a home, an education." "You took in free labor," I interrupted. "I built your company while living like a servant. And my education? I paid for those night classes with money I saved from the pitiful allowance you gave me. Money I had to hide because Aunt Jennifer routinely searched my room to make sure I wasn't wasting it." Silence stretched between us, filled with 6 years of unspoken grievances. "The lawsuits will ruin us," he finally said. "They should." "What do you want, Maya? Money? A partnership? Tell me what it will take to make this go away." I laughed, the sound hollow even to my own ears. "Nothing will make this go away, but I've drawn up some terms for you to consider." The day before, I'd consulted with a labor attorney who specialized in wage theft cases. Together, we calculated what Carter & Sons owed me for 6 years of unpaid work, a staggering sum that would likely bankrupt them even without the other legal troubles they faced. We drafted a settlement agreement that included back wages, damages, and intellectual property rights to all designs I created. "I've emailed it to you," I told Uncle Eric. "Consider it carefully. It's the only path forward that doesn't involve criminal charges." "Criminal? You wouldn't. Tax fraud is a criminal offense, Uncle. So is immigration fraud, like when Aunt Jennifer forced those Malaysian interns to work unpaid overtime by threatening their visa status." His sharp intake of breath told me he hadn't known about that particular transgression. The settlement acknowledges that I was an employee, not a charity case. It requires you to pay what you owe me and relinquish any claim to my design portfolio. Sign it, and I won't pursue criminal charges. And if we refuse, then I'll cooperate fully with the authorities and testify against you in court. After I hung up, I walked through the house that had been my prison for 6 years, touching furniture I'd dusted, walls I'd painted, fixtures I'd cleaned. Despite everything, a twinge of melancholy surfaced. This had been my only home since my parents died. But it had never really been home. My phone chimed with a new email, my itinerary from Mr. Nakamura. A business class ticket to Tokyo, departing in 3 days. A suite at the Park Hyatt. A schedule of meetings with their design team and potential clients interested in my work. A real opportunity, earned through my talent, not granted through nepotism. I began packing, not with the frantic hope of my first attempt, but with the deliberate certainty of someone who knows exactly where they're going. The next morning, a courier delivered an envelope. Inside was the settlement agreement, signed by both Uncle Eric and Aunt Jennifer, along with a handwritten note. "Maya, you've won. The company is finished anyway. The house keys are enclosed. We'll find somewhere else to stay when we return. The money will be transferred once the accounts are unfrozen. I never wanted it to be this way. I loved your mother, Uncle Eric." I stared at the note, searching for the regret or apology hidden between the lines. There was none. Even now, He couldn't admit what they'd done. I set the note aside and picked up the house keys. They weren't mine anymore. I'd be gone before they returned. But the gesture was symbolic. For once, I wasn't the one being locked out. The final piece fell into place that afternoon. A law firm representing the IRS arrived to interview me about Carter and Sons accounting practices. I provided copies of all the documentation I'd saved, watching as the investigators' eyes widened at the scale of the fraud. "You'll be entitled to a whistleblower reward," she told me. "A percentage of what they recover." I nodded, not really caring about the money. It had never been about the money. That night, I changed the locks on the house. Not out of spite, but for practical reasons. I wouldn't be there when they returned, and I didn't want them claiming I'd abandoned their property. I left their belongings untouched, but packed mine meticulously. In my old room, the converted storage space with its narrow bed and single window, I left a copy of my one-way ticket to Tokyo, along with a note of my own. "You thought the girl in the shadows would never bite back. You were wrong. I'm not running away. I'm walking towards something better."
Maya.
As I placed my suitcase by the front door, ready for tomorrow's departure, I felt lighter than I had in years. The revenge I'd orchestrated had transformed into something unexpected, not just the collapse of their business, but my own comeback story. Tokyo wasn't just a destination. It was the first page of a new chapter. Cherry blossoms dance in the gentle breeze outside the cafe window. Their pink petals catch the morning light, transforming ordinary air into something magical. I wrap my hands around a steaming cup of matcha, breathing in its earthy aroma.
Tokyo.
Finally. It's been 3 weeks since I arrived. 3 weeks of discovery, of finding my voice in meetings with Nakamura Technologies executives, of presenting my portfolio to potential clients who look me in the eye when I speak. 3 weeks of being seen. My phone buzzes against the table. I glance down at the screen and feel a familiar tightness in my chest.
John.
I haven't heard from any of them since they returned to a locked house and a crumbling business. The settlement money cleared last week, enough to rent my own apartment, build a proper design studio, and still have savings. The whistleblower reward from the tax investigation will come later, though the attorney says it could be substantial. I consider ignoring the message, but curiosity wins. I unlock my phone. "I hope you're happy." 3 words. No question mark. No context needed. Am I happy? The question resonates as I look around the sunlit cafe, at the businesswoman typing on her laptop, the elderly couple sharing a pastry, the barista creating elaborate latte art. Normal people living normal lives, something I've craved for so long. I don't reply to John. Instead, I open my camera and frame a shot of my matcha, the window beside me revealing the cherry blossoms beyond. I post it to my professional social media account, the one that's gained thousands of followers since Mr. Nakamura shared my portfolio with his industry contacts. Built in silence. Thriving in peace. #Tokyo Dreams. The irony isn't lost on me. For years, I was forced to remain silent as they took credit for my work. Now my name is attached to everything I create, and the industry is taking notice. My phone pings with a calendar reminder. In an hour, I'm meeting with a startup that wants to hire me as their lead UX designer. Tomorrow, I have coffee with a mentor Mr. Nakamura introduced me to, one of Tokyo's most respected design directors. The day after, I'm teaching a workshop on ethical design practices at a local university. A life I built. A future I crafted. A name I reclaimed. The barista approaches with a small plate. "Compliments of the house," she says in careful English, setting down a wagashi sweet shaped like a cherry blossom. "You come every morning. We appreciate you." I thank her with the few Japanese phrases I've learned, and she beams. Another small connection in this new world I'm building, brick by brick. My phone buzzes again. This time it's an email notification. The design I submitted for a prestigious competition has been shortlisted. My name, Maya Carter, in bold letters on the announcement. Not shadow work. Not stolen credit. Mine. I finish my matcha and gather my things, leaving a generous tip. Outside, I pause to take a deep breath of Tokyo air. a complex symphony of cherry blossoms, street food, and possibility. 6 months ago, when I discovered the ticket hidden in my textbook, Tokyo represented escape. Now it represents something far more powerful: beginnings. I start walking toward the subway, my stride confident. The settlement included a clause preventing my aunt and cousin from using my designs or claiming them as their own. The legal proceedings against Carter and Sons continue, with several former clients filing their own lawsuits. Uncle Eric emailed last week, asking if I would testify on their behalf. I didn't respond. Some debts can never be repaid. My phone buzzes one final time. A text from Mr. Nakamura. The board loved your presentation. Contract being drafted now. Congratulations on becoming Nakamura Technologies' first foreign design director. I stop walking, stunned. Design director. At 22. A businessman bumps into me, apologizes profusely, then continues on his way. I remain rooted to the spot, reading the message again and again until the words blur through unexpected tears. Not tears of joy, though there is joy. Not tears of vindication, though there is that too. These are tears of recognition, of being seen for exactly who I am. I compose myself and continue walking, joining the flow of people heading to work, to meetings, to futures they're building. My path is now among theirs, not behind them, not in their shadows. In my mind, I see the girl I was 6 years ago, standing at her parents' funeral in a borrowed black dress. I want to tell her, you will survive this. You will be invisible for a while, but one day, you will shine so brightly they'll need to shield their eyes. And you will enjoy Tokyo. My phone pings with a final notification. My post has gone viral in design circles, with job offers and collaboration requests pouring in. I slip my phone into my pocket without responding. Those opportunities will still be there tonight, tomorrow, next week. Right now, I want to be present for this moment. The cherry blossoms continue to fall, pink petals swirling around me like confetti celebrating a victory long in the making. I've arrived.